So one of the tools that I use throughout my van build for both the framing connections and building the cabinets was the Craig pocket hole tool. And so let me show you how this thing works. So it comes in a box like this with the pocket jig there, the drill bit with an adjustable collar that allows you to adjust how deep it goes into the tool. And the kit also comes with a driver bit that allows you to drill the screws into the wood. So let me show you how this works. So you take your piece of wood and you put the pocket jig onto the wood. You take the clamp, clamp it to the table, get your screwdriver, put the bit in the driver, and you just put it in the hole. And you drill a hole like that. That's what it looks like. And then you take out your drill bit, put your driver bit in, take a screw, and now to connect these two pieces of board together, put your drill bit in there, line it up, and you drill it in like that. Simple. Just like that. And so you can see from the cabinet component I have here how this cabinet is constructed, with a pocket tool making the screw holes for the top to connect to the sides. And so the screws go right in here on each of these two sides. It's been a while since I've done a van build update, so I thought it was about time. So here's what it looks like at this point. Yesterday I was able to pressurize my water system, and I've installed my sink and countertop, and it works great. Got the switch for the pump. Here's what it looks like inside. There's the pump and the accumulator right there. Had to cap off the hot water feed from the sink, and I'm going to use a gray water tank, something like this, a little smaller, that's going to go in here, bungeed in the corner. I've got the cabinet with the porta potty there, again bungeed in the back, and a couple of drawers down there. Again, I haven't done the facing yet, but that comes next. So there, works quite well, and it snugs in right like that to stay closed. Fridge has already been there. You've probably seen the fridge. And I get my slides for the other cabinet that's going to go in here today, so I'm going to install the drawers in the cabinet, put some trim around the floor. You can see the trim down there. The plan is to build a stair in here that covers up the front of the battery, but it folds down in 3 sections to make a stair in here. So that's probably one of the next things I'm going to do. And oh yeah, the bug screen. So the bug screen. Here's what the bug screen looks like with the screen rolled up here, so you can see that it tucks in nicely, and so it's like it's not even there, and all you got to do is just let them go and drop them down and zip it up, and you've got a full-on bug screen. So it's, in my opinion, it's great to have these things done professionally, because they do such a great job. Anyway, very sturdy, durable zippers and everything else, so looking forward to trying that out. And you can see that it's on these magnetic strips that close automatically behind you. like that. And you can unzip them here. Then the last thing is here I've also got very cool bike wash slash shower. So the hose is plugged into the water tank, and so it's a great hose with many settings on it, but a nice long coil so you can actually hose down your bike here from behind the van. If you're out in a wilderness trail area where you don't actually have access to water, you can rinse off your bike from the dust. Classic thing is like in Utah and Arizona, where the trails are so powdery dusty that at the end of the day your bike hasn't really got dirty, but it's got all that fine powder that gets into the drivetrain and the shocks. You really want to rinse that off before you ride again. So that's the plan. Anyway, the back, the bike tray and everything else is pretty much as before. So it's functionally looking pretty good. I just got to finish off the framing and the siding and put in the roof fan. I'm just about to head out on my first road trip of the year. I thought I would provide an update on the latest of my van build. So let's go have a look. So I've got the cabinetry installed now. I've kind of only roughed it in. I have to put the drawer faces on yet, but I put the knobs in so it's easy to pull them out. And the slides do have a bit of a locking mechanism to secure it while I'm on these gnarly back roads. So I also changed this panel here so that I can access a little bit of a storage area here. So I'll show you this. So these are my window shades in there. They're long and narrow, and so I think that's kind of I don't have to go in the garage anymore to get at them. And same thing here for my battery panel. So there's the battery in there, and it locks nicely in place. And I've got someone to install my roof vent, to install my roof fan. So there you go there, and I added the extra. I got around to adding the insulation in there too, and I still have to build the framing in here and the roof and the paneling and so on, but I've got a Max Air roof fan with the remote control. Very cool. But the key thing I learned about this is the cabinetry here. So that's the latest iteration. That's actually my second attempt at it. So let me show you. The first version of that same cabinet. I'm not a carpenter nor a cabinet maker, and I really didn't know what I was doing. So I followed a bunch of cabinet build YouTube videos as to how to do this. And so I saw guys building the face as well as these inserts. So the slides now install flush on these with the face. And I went ahead and did that, and you can see that my bottom drawer, how big this is. So the first iteration of the sequence of cabinets was based on my floor plan that built the garage in order to fit my bikes. They needed to be a certain depth, and then I worked backwards from my driver's seat that swivels back, and you can see that sitting in there, the amount of knee room I have to sit in this seat was a consideration. And when I first mapped out the floor plan, I didn't really know how much knee room I needed or how much toe room I needed, and so I gave myself probably a little bit of buffer. But the consequence was that the cabinet itself, the original one, ended right here. And I realized that I actually had a little bit of wiggle room on the size of this cabinet. So let me go show you the issue it created. So this was the first cabinet that was essentially sized according to my floor plan and the amount of knee room I needed. And so I built it, and then built in these spacers, so the slides would go over top of the front face and so on. And so as a consequence, the drawers are this wide. And so with that as the consequence, I was intending to put my stacking pots in there, but they don't fit. Neither that way or not quite that way, because it's a little too high. So I thought, nor does it fit my teapot. It fits just barely, but again, it's too high to go under this spacer on the door face. So I had a hard look at what I did and decided that if I built this 1 3/4 inches wider, I would still have the ample knee room. And I removed these because I don't really need them. I think the reason you put them there is so that the screws that you put in on your slides don't slide through and come poke out the other side. But my screws were only about 1/2 inch or so, and I built this with 3/4 inch plywood. So I didn't need these, nor did I need the door faces. So let's go back and look at the what I did build. So here's the cabinet drawer that I did build. And you can see that now my stacking pots fit in there with lots of room. And there's plenty of height room for my teapot. And that's because I'm able to maximize. I don't no longer have that spacer in here or here. I took out, you see the slides in there. I took out that extra piece of wood that I had in there, plus I built the cabinet itself that extra 1 3/4 inches wider. And so the net sum of the drawer space that I now have compared to the drawer space that I had in my first version is that this sequence of drawers with only 1 3/4 inches wider now provides me with 86% greater storage capacity than my first version. And as you know, when you've got a van that's only 6 feet wide and 11 feet long in the cargo area here, every fraction of a square foot is crucial in to be able to store everything. So to be able to increase the size of this was actually a huge epiphany, and I'm very pleased with how it worked out. So what I would say the learning I learned is measure all your components and design your storage and your drawers to custom build the right size. Don't work so much on the floor plan as you work from the bottom up, within the general scope of the floor plan, of course. But you want to make sure that these things fit really efficiently so that you don't end up using so much unnecessary space because things aren't right sized. So there you have it. So I decided to change the orientation of the cabinets. Originally I had the fridge in the middle here, and then I found that it seemed to cycle and use a lot of power. So it seemed to be struggling to vent the heat from the back end of the fridge. So I decided to add bigger gaps in the back of the cabinetry so it breathes better. And it's now venting directly to the cabin instead of being confined in the middle. At the back here, you can see I've also put cut out the back of these two cabinets, and it vents directly. Okay, we can't see it from there. The back of these cabinets vent right into the garage underneath the bed, so it doesn't circulate quite as well as opening here into the cabinet. And I thought I would try that and do as much as I can. So I've now installed the faces. And so on. And I got to paint the knobs yet. I've also got these strong magnets in here. You can see that. So there's one other little tidbit here on my gray water tank. So I've got a bungee in here. So the other epiphany I had, or the other lesson learned I have, is here's my gray water storage, and I've got it attached to a bungee, which makes for a quick simple release. And I've got one of these garden hose quick release things. You pull this down and it just pops right off. So out comes my gray tank. But the thing is, what I found is inside this, I don't know if you can see that, but inside here there was a little bit of a plug. It had a bit of a screen, I guess maybe for preventing gravel or something going through here, what have you. But because of that, my sink wasn't draining, and the food was getting caught up in these narrow restrictions in here. Food was getting caught up in that valve, but more so in this little screen that was inside here. And so I got out a drill bit and a screwdriver and essentially broke it up and piecemeal removed it here. So now it's the full width. So it drains way better now, but I still have the functionality of the quick release. So there you have it. Simple as that. Anyway, so that's all for now for this update. And I guess in future videos, I'm going to be doing the framing and the paneling and the upper cabinet storage areas. So I'm really looking forward to that. But meanwhile, I got to hit the road and try out this latest configuration. This is what I find is that, you know, you build these things and then you want to tweak and tune them after you've tried them out, and you find that some of these things don't actually work all that well. So really looking forward to hitting the road. So anyway, folks, that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.